Which gets me on to, I guess, another issue, which I've heard you talk about Canada before. They used to be a big, strong two-party system, and now obviously they've developed into something more. And, because they don't have preferential voting, you've got Justin Trudeau as the guy calling the shots, even though a third of the people only voted for him. Do you think that, potentially that's what we're looking at in Australia here, a big change away from the two-party preferred system?
There are no two countries on earth more similar than Australia and Canada. We've got similar population, we're very big countries. We're very hot, they're very cold. We've got similar histories. We've got basically an identical constitution. We've got a constitutional monarchy. We've got a upper house, lower house, we've got state parliaments, what they call provincial parliaments. Okay, so we are Canada's twin. Now, what happened, and so therefore what happens in Canada is very, very interesting for us. And what happened was they had their two parties. So their historic party of the left, which Justin Trudeau belongs to, is called the Liberal Party. Confusing with us, but anyway, that's their left of centre party. And then they had this party that had been around since the 1860s, which is when Canada first got their independence from Britain, very similar to Australia in 1901. And that was called the Progressive Conservative Party. Weird name, but that was their name. They were called the PCs, Progressive Conservative. And then what happened was, they get to the early 1990s, and this little libertarian, sort of socially conservative party broke away from the Progressive Conservatives in Western Canada. And they had a message pretty similar to us, although the Liberal Democrats are not really social conservatives, but certainly fiscal conservatives, and we've sort of got an open mind on everything else now. But anyway, we've got quite a lot in common with this little party, which was called the Reform Party. And they were pro-business, deregulation, just like Margaret Thatcher type of thing. And they went really well. And 3 federal elections later, the Liberals were in power in the 1990s, but the little Reform Party overtook the Progressive Conservatives in terms of having more seats in what they call the House of Commons, which is our House of Representatives. So they had this great old party, the Progressive Conservatives, around since the 19th century, got taken over in 3 federal elections by a little breakaway party who broke away because they just thought, just like the Liberal Party today in Australia, had just been taken over by careerists and apparatchiks and people like Scott Morrison, who don't believe in a bloody thing and who had very little experience in the real world. And so then then after they overtook them, those two parties officially merged. But the truth is, it was a mop-up operation. The Reform Party basically just sort of was just taking over, just to be polite. Basically, they didn't even need to. They had destroyed them. They became rebadged as the Conservative Party, and Stephen Harper was the Prime Minister for 12 years, and a pretty good Prime Minister, very good Prime Minister. Okay. So look, these things, we hopefully are not wasting our time in the Liberal Democrats, and I believe we're not, because there's so many hardcore Liberal Party people out there, National Party people, who are so horrified with what their party has done.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the big issue is, and you mentioned it, the career politicians, the guys that are just, they haven't any experience in the real world. And I don't, can't remember a time ever seeing politicians that are so detached from the people that they represent as we are seeing at the moment. It's just insane. But if you go and look at the resume of these guys, it's pretty apparent that none of them have lived in the real world.
Basically none of them. There's really, really few exceptions these days. Now, this is the trajectory on how to become a Liberal Party politician, but it's worse in the Labor Party and the Nationals. The National Party, which used to be a more conservative, pro-free enterprise party than the Liberal Party. 20 years ago, the left wing of the New South Wales Liberal Party had this concerted effort to take over the National Party, and that's exactly what has happened. John Anderson used to be the Deputy Prime Minister of this country with John Howard. John Anderson is an impressive human being.
He is.
He's got plenty of money. He's already been the Deputy Prime Minister and a very successful one. There was nothing in it for him to go back into Parliament, except that he's a patriot and except that he sees what's happening and he's really concerned about it. And and we should have, the National Party should have rolled out the red carpet. John Anderson, thanks for coming back. We need your wisdom in the National Parliament. And he got defeated in a pre-selection by this little dweeb, Ross Cadell, who used to be the president of the New South Wales Young Liberals, not Young Nationals, Young Liberals. And he's just a professional staffer / lobbyist / wanker his whole life. And and the National Party chose him over John Anderson. Okay.
Yeah, nice.
And Scott Morrison was happy about it. Scott Morrison didn't want John Anderson there. Why? Because John Anderson was there.
Well, he was going to take his job.
Well, he was thinking, I don't want a true believer. True believers are a pain in the neck. I'm running a little drama show here, a little pretending. But look, this is the trajectory of how someone gets into Parliament, like Ross Cadell.
Yeah.
They usually go fairly bright at school. So
yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it is a concern for a lot of people out there. I know it is. But hopefully what we've done today is sort of said to people, we've given them some tools to actually go and say, well, go and have your say at the ballot box, because that's where it's done. And one thing I do know is that if people vote a certain way, these politicians will get the message. That's the only thing they understand is votes. The fact that they're going to be unemployed, that's the only thing that will get their attention. Yes. So it's up to us, and we've got to take the time, we've got to take the effort to actually put a bit of thought into this and go and do what we need to do for the sake of our children and their children. It's not going to worry us. We're going to be old and sort of all washed up, but I want my kids and I want their kids to have the opportunities that I had when I was a young fella.
Absolutely. Look, for further information on the preferential voting system, Topher Field, who's a very good commentator, has made a video. So I think on preferential voting. So I think you're going to be distributing.
Yes, I'll include that. That was a great little take. Well, John, mate, thank you for the time. Thank you for your insights.
Thanks, Rob. Good to catch up again.
I wish you all luck in the race, and mate, it's great to see you standing up and having a go. At the end of the day, it's all easy to sit at the sideline and give our 2 bobs worth, but to actually put your hand up and get amongst it, hats off to you.
Good on you, Rob. Well, look, thank you very much for your interest, which clearly you feel keenly about these subjects, and I'm so pleased that we've had an opportunity to speak, and hopefully a few people can watch this and learn a thing or two.
Thanks very much, John.